Ladies, gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new DC News Roundup video. So very interesting and exciting stories because we've got even more castings. Yes, my previous two news roundups were involving castings as well, but we've got even more for Peacemaker Season 2. And not only that, these characters could very well continue on into other DCU projects, namely Waller, and even somewhat through the back alleys connect to DCU Batman and some other things going on there. And we've got some other little tidbits to go over in that of the DCU, as well as even the Penguin. Some news there, which is very exciting, but may kind of come back to haunt me. More on that a little bit later. And the Batman Part 2 concerning Rumours. And I say concerning with a big kind of air quote because, you know, this needs to stop. It's time to stop, and I need to have a little bit of a whinge about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this. Please go ahead and like the video if you do go on to enjoy it. And hey, maybe consider subscribing. If you're not already subscribed, I'm sure you'll enjoy the future videos here. So check that red button if you haven't already. So right away, we have the blessing and curse continue. I uploaded my video yesterday, and all over Twitter, once again, on my feed, people like, Boba, it's happened again, because we have two new castings from The Hollywood Reporter saying Peacemaker Season 2 cast Picard actor Saul Rodriguez and The Office alum David Denman. So, they also reveal that James Gunn is directing 3 episodes of the series, which stars John Cena. This isn't really anything new, but this is where we get into the characters that have been cast. And I'm not even joking. Stay tuned into this video because we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into certain connections that we've already had and where these characters can go. And I feel like we're getting the pieces of the puzzle. Granted, we're not necessarily fitting them together, but the pieces, like having those alone, and I'm pretty confident in some of them, is intriguing in of itself. So Rodriguez will play Sasha Bordeaux, who debuted in the comics in 2000's Detective Comics number 751 and is known as a Batman ally. And then Denman joins Peacemaker in an undisclosed role, and when being asked who is David playing, as Gunn just put the emoji like this. He clearly doesn't want to give it away right now, and lots of fans are wondering online, who could he be playing in Peacemaker Season 2? A lot of people were thinking Kite Man could appear, which would be pretty hilarious and very fitting for, the tone of Peacemaker. Captain Atom, some people were thinking maybe even an Authority member, because don't forget, just like the Engineer and how she's kind of being backdoor piloted into Superman, well, we could have other Authority members appear in early DCU projects before that of the Authority movie. So let me know who you think it could be. Honestly, for me right now, I am pretty unsure. But I want to now talk about what this could mean with the Sasha Bordeaux casting. And that is because she is a very interesting character to bring into the DCU with regards to who she's connected with. And that is namely also not only Batman, but the team known as Checkmate. And I really do think the more you look into this and the more you'll hear from me in the next couple of minutes, the more you might be like, shite, this could actually be happening, even going into that of the Waller series. Now, DCU Updates replied to James Gunn posting this confirmation of these castings over on Threads with a little chess piece there with an eye emoji, and James Gunn liked his response. So that was obviously him teasing Checkmate and Gunn kind of being like, maybe you're onto something. Now, him liking it doesn't necessarily confirm anything, but again, with Sasha Bordeaux and just like the roots of her character, I do always say adaptations don't always copy and paste, but with the Waller series and where everything is going here, I do feel like Checkmate could very well be a thing that is being brought to fruition. And then you think about Deathstroke being teased and stuff like that. Again, I don't want to get too carried away, but this is where we get into a bit of theory time with stuff that could actually happen in the next few years. So Sasha Bordeaux, why is this important? Why is Checkmate a possible potential importance and thing that we need to break down here? Well, you may be thinking, who is Checkmate? And for those of you who don't know, Checkmate is essentially a group that Waller kickstarted. It originally had the name of the agency, and Waller gave the command to the NYPD detective Harry Stein, of whom was actually recruited into the agency previously, and he revamped the organization into Checkmate. But, you know, the thing is, as we get into this, I think if Checkmate is indeed adapted into the DCU's early days, it will still all be coming from Amanda Waller herself, and she'll be the, I guess, top figurehead of it still, even if Harry Stein is involved and adapted in the way he is in the source material. So yeah, it is somewhat of a spin-off from Task Force X, and it's another anti-hero team, and the name Checkmate, as you may have guessed it, most certainly does have a relation to chess, and the way actually the group operates is also reflective of the somewhat hierarchy of the chess pieces in that of the board game, such as how you have the king and queen. They are like the leaders of the team, the bishops on the next level down somewhat monitoring the checkmate activities and missions, with the rooks doing the planning and the knights of checkmate carrying out those said missions, and the pawns are just kind of, I guess, like the scrubs of the group. So with what Waller is doing and what we know about Amanda Waller, obviously this group is another one involved in matters that are crucial to that of national security. And Waller must be a pretty busy person if this is going to happen, because also she starts the Black Ops team of monstrous creatures in that of Creature Commandos. We know that is actually the somewhat first mini synopsis we've got of Creature Commandos, and this actually could all tie into the ending of Peacemaker Season 1, even though that wasn't in the DCU. As Gunn said, certain strands of canon from the DCEU is being maintained into the DCU, and I think the ending with Argus being exposed and what Waller may be up to next with, obviously, as we know, starting the Black Ops group known as Creature Commandos, and possibly Checkmate here with this new casting, I think we're really getting onto something here. Now, the roster of members in that of Checkmate has had many different characters from DC be a part of its different iterations, but Sasha Bordeaux is one of the newer Checkmate Black Queens. Now, Sasha Bordeaux, if you didn't know already, she was a bodyguard to that of Bruce Wayne, and even a romantic interest. She kind of fell in love with him on the job. Bruce was a bit of a it was a bit cold to her, but then it turned out, long story short, that he kind of ended up liking her as well, but it was already too late by then, and she kind of went off into her Checkmate days. But this is interesting because of, you know, when you're looking at all of this, Peacemaker Season 2 is DCU canon, and Sasha Bordeaux is going to be in Peacemaker Season 2, set after Superman. Now, Talia al Ghul has even had affiliations with the new Checkmate in recent years, and Deathstroke has had even a moment of teaming up with them. So the several teases of James Gunn hinting that he may be working on something Deathstroke related could also pop in here. And even Maxwell Lord being a leader of Checkmate has been a thing, and as we know, Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, is playing as Maxwell Lord. Now, the thing is here, even though I'm saying this stuff, I'm not saying Talia al Ghul is going to be in Peacemaker Season 2, Deathstroke, or that of Maxwell Lord, but at the very minimum, with stuff like this seemingly being the direction of where things could be going, there could very well be references, and well, there could even be a chance of appearances from characters like this in that of Waller. Now, yeah, there could be a chance some of these characters, even the larger characters, could appear in Peacemaker Season 2, but I do think that we could have more of this substance and these larger characters pop in this Checkmate, possible Checkmate iteration of Checkmate storyline going into that of the DCU Project Waller. So people have been wondering, like at the baseline of all of this, way back in January of 2023, and I still see comments like this to this day saying, why are we getting a Waller series? Like, why? And I've always said, like, truly, at the time, I don't know, but I'm sure Gunn has obviously a very specific plan to warrant such a series. He's not just going to do it to be like, my buddy Viola Davis, I'm going to give her a show and all this money, and yeah, we're just going to create some crappy storyline. No, it's going to be integral to that of the early days of the DCU Chapter 1 plans. And as I was saying, I think Peacemaker Season 1's ending will be a strand of canon that is maintained in the DCU. And if you didn't know already, at the end, we had Leota Adebayo, Amanda Waller's daughter, expose that of Argus and Task Force X to the public, and that's when you had Amanda Waller being like, what the F, in that scene. So I think that, again, is a strand that will be maintained, just like that of Peacemaker killing Rick Flag in the Suicide Squad, because we have Frank Grillo playing Rick Flag Sr., and he's not happy with what he's learned. So again, certain strands of canon are maintained from the DCEU days. So with that ending of Peacemaker Season 1, I think Waller will go on to kickstart the agency, / Checkmate, if you will, and her series after Peacemaker Season 2 will potentially be about that, and this is where Peacemaker characters could continue on in Waller and maybe even introduce larger ones likened to those we've already aforementioned here. So the thing about this is, remember how Waller was supposed to come out first. It was actually described as a Peacemaker Season 1.5, as described by Gunn, and he even said that Peacemaker characters would be in Waller. But the thing is, now we know it's the other way round, and that's interesting. And yes, Peacemaker has also been in Checkmate as well. I guess they've just flipped it around to be like, okay, well, you know, we're going to have Peacemaker Season 2, and then after that, we could have characters like Vigilante, Peacemaker appear in the Waller series, and maybe even Sasha Bordeaux continue on from Peacemaker Season 2 into that of the Waller series, if you're still with me there. I don't think the shakeup of the reshuffling of Waller now coming out after Peacemaker has a massive impact on what they were originally going to do. I think it would just mean that obviously they would have had to have rewritten a couple of things to make that reshuffling work. And after all, just thinking about all of this, Peacemaker Season 1 was about a team set up by Waller to prevent the Butterfly invasion. So Peacemaker likely continues to work under Waller's new initiative in the Waller series. Because again, guys, I don't think the Waller series is going to be about Amanda Waller just hanging out with her daughter. I mean, that's the rumors of what we've had so far in terms of, we know the series is about her daughter, Leota from Peacemaker, but it's going to go far beyond that. Perhaps they try and run this new Checkmate team together if what we're talking about here turns out to be true. There's going to be a very specific reason why this series exists, and I honestly do feel like I'm not setting up my own expectations here, so if this doesn't turn out to be true, okay, but I feel quite strongly that this could very well happen. I mean, just looking at it again, I mean, literally, Sasha Bordeaux has had this history, and it's quite integral to her history. So I don't see, unless they really don't adapt much of her character, how they can ignore her having some involvement with Bruce Wayne. Doesn't even have to be romantic, but hey, I worked for that guy Bruce Wayne. Maybe this is after all of that, because again, don't forget that Batman's been active at least 8 to 12 years. So I think they will touch on how Sasha Bordeaux has been a bodyguard for Bruce Wayne. That would be pretty cool. So I can imagine things like that will be addressed as canon, and now this is just the next part of her journey into the agency and Checkmate as we get into Peacemaker Season 2, of which her debut will be, and then into the Waller series, which is very connected to Peacemaker, and we know that just based alone on how it was meant to be Peacemaker 1.5. Yes, it's coming out afterwards now, but it's still very connected. So let me know what you think of that, guys. I know I went on a bit of a ramble there, but I kind of wanted to go on a bit of a little deep dive, explain who Checkmate are, some of the members that we could see pop up. Do you believe that they will be adapting and maybe even referencing Sasha's actual background, being involved with Bruce Wayne, but maybe this is after that period of time? We could get references to Talia al Ghul, maybe, in the Waller series if they're doing Checkmate, because again, she has involvement with Checkmate in recent years. That would be pretty cool, because we know we're getting Talia in the Brave and the Bold in some way, shape, or form, given that Damian Wayne is coming in. Do you think Deathstroke could maybe be involved in that? I already said before any of this came out that I can imagine Deathstroke's going to be the Teen Titans DCU Project villain, but they could backdoor pilot, like introduce Deathstroke in the Waller series. I'm gonna talk about this all day if I don't shut up now, so let me know your thoughts. And one small teeny tiny tinsy wincy little update. Gunn has literally just posted, as I was making this video, a little snapshot of the Kent farm. Well, this isn't the actual Kent farm, but you can tell that this is at the same location of the Kent farm, as the sun is through the clouds there. So they're probably shooting Smallville, the Kent farm right now. We've already covered that. I'm probably showing pictures of the actual Kent farm from Google Maps right now on screen. And some people have been driving around there, so I don't know if they're going to be driving around there today, but if you are, you could very well see James Gunn himself. So up next, guys, we finally have our release date kind of for that of The Penguin. So we had an article from Variety. The next big tentpole series that we'll have coming up will be The Penguin with Colin Farrell. That is coming out of Matt Reeves' The Batman, and it's fantastic, just like Peacemaker came out of James Gunn's Suicide Squad. It's a really good example of what you can do. That'll be in September. So this is something I was thinking anyway. We were wondering, like, we knew that Creature Commandos and Penguin was coming out this fall, but was it like September, October, November? Now, the thing is, we don't know the exact day, and that kind of makes me anxious. Why? Because I'm going away, typically with a blessing and the curse here on the channel, on September 9th for 5 days. So I'm really hoping that I don't get cursed here, and that the Penguin series will drop sometime after the day that I'm away on my kind of little vacation. But again, knowing my luck, episode 1 will probably drop like September 10th, 11th, 12th, and I will be away, and I'll be getting comments saying, Boba, why aren't you reviewing the Penguin? And it will eat at my soul every single day when I'm out there. But hey, I could be in luck and it might release towards the end of September. But now I'm thinking about Creature Commandos. Is that going to release October, maybe November, sometime after the Penguin? Will it release somewhat near around it? Maybe not, because they might want to space two DC projects out a little bit, even though, you know, they're not both in the same universe. But either way, guys, the Penguin is releasing in September, and fingers crossed for me that it releases outside the dates when I'm away. But now time to get on to a little bit of a Boba bitching session here, because I am sick of it. I'm tired of stuff like this, and one particular scooper, with all due respect to them, I'm not trying to hate, but at the same time, you know, I'm going to do a bit of criticism rage here. So yesterday was a bit of an odd day when I posted my video, because it was a day in where, out of nowhere, 2 Batman rumors happened to post. But initially, you had My Time to Shine Hello. I don't get why people listen to My Time to Shine Hello anymore. I mean, maybe it's because they've had, you know, a few scoops before that have turned out to be right. I believe more in Marvel stuff, but you know, as far as what I've been exposed to, it's been miss after miss after miss. But I will agree that is a part of the scooper's game from time to time. But you know, you throw enough at the wall, it feels as though to me. And yeah, sure, something will stick eventually, but here we have My Time to Shine say, I heard a crazy DC rumor. We'll share it here soon. And as I'm dying to see if it's true or not, I'm sure Gunn is going to tell us. And then they quote tweeted their own tweet there saying, the rumor I heard is that they will shoot the Batman Part 2 and 3 back to back next year. And a lot of people, I think the thing that frustrates me about this is you get accounts like this sharing the information saying, as if it's a statement, like a fact, the Batman Part 2 and 3 will be shooting back-to-back next year, and then via the source, My Time to Shine. Why not say, there's a new rumor, you know, take this with a grain of salt? Like, why not that? Because, you know, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here. I do cover leaks on the channel, but when I cover them, I always preface it by saying it's a rumor, take it with a grain of salt, but I do my due diligence. For example, when we look at DCU leaks, I do a massive retrospective over leaks from like a year and a half ago. All of them, well, most of them from the verified section turn out to be true and have been proven to be true as we got official confirmations from major trades and Gunn himself. So I like to entertain rumors and leaks as if they're true for the sake of conversation, and also talk about the plausibility of could they be true. But I do ignore some things like this from various other scoopers out there that I just don't get why people take them too seriously. Sure, you could go with the argument of, oh, you could entertain if it's true. Sure, but I think what I'm talking about here is it winds me up when people don't add in the fact that it's a rumor and they report it as like this is like a confirmation. Now, I think this particular rumor sounded maybe believable given the history of development with the Batman Part 2 and how we've heard absolutely nothing really about it. And Matt Reeves has been working on the Part 2 script for quite a while. We know that it's now been delayed to October of 2026. So maybe there's going to be a bit of like a, you know, almost like Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings trilogy kind of thing where they just film it back to back. Maybe that's what Matt Reeves is doing. He's writing Part 2 and Part 3 so they can just going ham. And maybe this could make sense with the actors' schedules and everything like that. They're just going to get it out the way. I think that's why a lot of people were buying into it. But James Gunn debunked this. A user said, "Is it true that the Batman Part 2 and Part 3 are shooting back-to-back next year?" And Gunn said it is not. So I think that's all I have to say about that. When it comes to scoopers, always just, take it with a massive grain of salt. And if you do your own research, you will be able to identify certain pages or scoopers who really... I don't get how they've got the reputation and trust of so many people anyway, like this, when I don't remember a time where they got something right. I mean, I'm not saying they haven't got something right, but my God. And the other rumor here, we had this article come out from Top Film magazine saying the Batman 2 is still in the works, but potentially being delayed again and could be Pattinson's final Batman film. And I think why I get a bit stirred up about this is because I get a lot of people reaching out to me being like, Boba, have you heard this? Have you heard this? I'm really worried now. Oh my God, this could make sense. And when you look at the article, you can just dissect how transparent it is that they don't really know what they're talking about. So the meat of the article is that reportedly James Gunn has been keeping a close eye on the sequel, and insiders have whispered rumors of executive notes being handed down to Matt Reeves, which we hope won't interfere with the story the director is going to tell. Point one here, that isn't a strange thing. People have been freaking out about this part of the article, being like, oh my God, how dare James Gunn give notes to Matt Reeves? This is no different to that of the first movie. Matt Reeves would have still got notes there, and granted, they hopefully and weren't probably, as we know the Batman is a great movie, they weren't that interfering with the process, but there still would have been notes, right? And, James Gunn being the co-CEO of DC Studios, I don't get why people are shocked by this. This part of the article just cites reportedly. Reportedly from where? Where are you getting this from? But either way, this is something that is kind of low-key true anyway. Like, Matt Reeves had to pitch the Batman Part 2 and other things in that meeting with James Gunn anyway. He is a co-head of DC Studios, so no matter what, Matt Reeves is under James Gunn. Like, Matt Reeves isn't his own separate entity who gets to do whatever the bloody hell he wants for the Batman Part 2 without James Gunn's say so. It's just the way it works. It's a business. Gunn's at the top of DC, and in that meeting, he would have to say, hey, here's what I'm planning to do for the Batman Part 2. James Gunn said he was very excited for it, but at the end of the day, they had to do that air traffic control thing so they wouldn't have conflicting ideas of each respective Batman in each respective universe with what they were doing with each different project. So there would be notes. There just would be. So don't get worried about that. I know people automatically translate James Gunn notes to Matt Reeves as, oh my God, how dare he? He's got to interfere with Matt Reeves' process. No, it's just he's the boss of DC, and if there's any notes, he would give them, and it's just the way it works. But either way, the next red flag, now it's being suggested. But where's it being suggested from? But now it's being suggested that the Batman Part 2 could be Reeves' final Batman movie. Who's saying this? I mean, I guess maybe this is the thing about this whole article. Maybe they're just, doing their own research on what fans are saying, and fans are suggesting, oh, could it end with Part 2? I've even entertain that thought. So maybe that's the consensus. But the way it's written here, to somebody who doesn't read it or do a double check, when they just read the article, they might get a bit panicked, being like, oh, it's being suggested there. Wait, what? That's how people got by articles like this and believe things to be true. So now it's being suggested that the Batman Part 2 could be Reeves' final Batman movie, as the DCU is aiming to be the main force and only universe in the current continuation. However, these rumors can easily be dismissed, as Reeves is busy working on spin-offs to his Batman films, such as The Penguin and an Arkham Asylum TV show. Another red flag. The Arkham Asylum TV show isn't even a part of the Batverse anymore. So whoever wrote this article doesn't even know that. So again, I wouldn't worry about any of this, because it's just an article, I think, written from fan conjecture and just, oh God, could it end with Part 2? Oh God. But based on what? Nothing. It's just kind of appropriate timing for articles like this, or like it will gather interest when you put out an article like this, because there's kind of radio silence obviously on the production of the Batman Part 2. So any kind of whispers like this will get, you know, fans who love the Elseworlds Batman universe from Matt Reeves in a bit of a stir and a bit of panic. But don't worry about it. You know, I'm not saying one thing or another. Like, I don't know, but I can analyze this and tell you that it doesn't, it's nothing to worry about based off of this article alone. So when it comes to the Batman, guys, I wouldn't worry about it. It's been delayed. The strikes were involved in that delay and the writing process. Matt Reeves, as we know, takes a long time to write anyway. And as a result of October 2026, you know, right about now, in terms of radio silence, it kind of makes sense. Like, you know, if Matt Reeves was like James Gunn, I'm sure we would hear like, oh, you know, it's going well and things like that. But that's not really how things work out of Matt Reeves's camp. So when you take that into account, you take into account how far away the Batman Part 2 genuinely is, like with October 2026. The process of writing right now, or the idea of it, and them not necessarily casting people right this second, isn't a crazy one. It's just we're not hearing anything. No news doesn't mean no news. It just means that we're not hearing news because they're not ready to necessarily tell us about it right now, because the news could be quite incremental and slow. So sure, the script could be nearly done, but casting might not be done until the fall of this year or getting into next year, as the shooting ramps up around about probably spring of 2025. Hopefully, you know, because again, I'm not an oracle. Who knows what could happen at the end of the day? But don't panic. Don't panic right now. Although, don't get me wrong, one of these days, any day now, any week now, I would love some kind of mini update from Matt Reeves on just the overall process. Just even if it's like a deadline article saying, Matt Reeves has finished writing the script, Gunn confirmed it, and casting is looking to start around the fall of 2024. Boom. Like, production still won't start until 2025. That's what I'm dying to get in one of these news roundup videos fairly soon. If nothing's happened by the Penguin's release date, then that is when I would initiate the panic button, because we should have heard something, bare minimum, about the Batman Part 2's development by September. Like, if they're going to start pre-production in time to start shooting Q1 of 2025. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. What your thoughts on all of these panicky rumors are that pop up every now and again about the Batman Part 2. And of course, the chunk of DCU news, which could actually lead into interesting things to unfold as Chapter 1 takes off. But if you've got to this point of the video and you're still watching and you haven't hit that like button yet, maybe you'll do it. Would really appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, do it. Why not? Why not? You're still watching? You may as well hit the subscribe button and come back again on my next video. But until next time, really appreciate you guys, and hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And I'll see you people of the DCU and just DC in general in the next video. Goodbye.